The streets of Baghdad were alive with the chatter of traders and travelers. Amidst the golden glow of the afternoon sun, Behlul wandered through the bustling bazaar, his tattered robes billowing slightly in the warm breeze. The scent of fresh spices and roasted meat filled the air as merchants called out their wares. One voice, however, rang louder than the rest. "Step forward, noble men of Baghdad. Test your wits against mine, and win a fortune." The speaker was Malik the merchant, one of the wealthiest traders in the city. Draped in fine silks, he stood before a lavish stall filled with gleaming gold, silver, and exotic treasures from faraway lands. His fingers toyed with a golden ring as he smirked at the crowd. "I will ask a single riddle," he declared, "and whoever solves it shall receive 100 gold coins from me. But if you fail, you must pay me 10. The people murmured among themselves. 100 gold coins was a fortune. But to challenge Malik was dangerous. He was known for his cunning and had never lost a wager. Behlul, amused by the spectacle, stepped forward. "A wager of wits, you say?" He grinned. "Then I accept." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "The fool wishes to match wits with a merchant," someone chuckled. Malik, intrigued, raised an eyebrow. "Very well, Behlul. Answer me this." He leaned in, his voice smooth like flowing silk. "What is something that belongs to you, but others use it more than you do?" The crowd hushed. Some frowned in deep thought. Others whispered among themselves, but no answer seemed clear. Behlul, however, merely stroked his beard. Then, with a twinkle in his eye, he answered. "My name." A gasp spread through the crowd. Malik's smirk faltered. He had expected hesitation, confusion, perhaps even failure. But Behlul had answered without pause. The merchant sighed, reaching into his pouch. With a reluctant hand, he placed 100 gold coins into Behlul's open palm. Behlul jingled the coins in his hand, then grinned. "A good wager, my friend. But tell me, would you care for another?" Malik's eyes narrowed. "And what do you propose?" Behlul's smile widened. "Let us raise the stakes. I shall ask you a riddle. If you solve it, I will return the 100 gold coins. But if you fail, you shall owe me 1,000. The crowd erupted in whispers. 8,000 gold coins. Even for a rich merchant, that was no small sum. Malik hesitated. But his pride would not allow him to back down in front of so many. He lifted his chin. "Very well, fool. Ask your riddle." Behlul's gaze darkened slightly as he leaned in and spoke. "What grows when fed but dies when given water?" The people fell silent once more. Malik furrowed his brows. He repeated the riddle under his breath, glancing at his treasures as if the answer lay among them. Seconds stretched into minutes. Sweat beaded on Malik's forehead. Behlul simply waited, a knowing smile on his lips. Would the merchant solve the riddle, or would his greed cost him dearly? The air in the bazaar grew thick with anticipation. Malik the merchant, a man known for his cleverness, stood in silent frustration. The weight of Behlul's riddle pressed upon him. What grows when fed but dies when given water? He stroked his beard, scanning the faces around him as if the answer might reveal itself in the crowd. But none dared to speak. The people of Baghdad had seen many fall to Malik's cunning, but now the tables had turned. A bead of sweat rolled down Malik's temple. His mind raced. Was it a plant? No, all plants needed water. Was it a fire? Fire burned stronger when fed but died if drenched. His stomach clenched. That was it. Fire. Malik smirked. His confidence returned. With a dramatic wave of his hand, he declared, "The answer is fire." The crowd held its breath. But Behlul simply chuckled, shaking his head. "Ah, Malik, I see why you are a merchant and not a philosopher." Malik's face paled. "What do you mean?" "The answer is greed," Behlul said. "The more you feed it, the larger it grows. But the moment you give generously, When you pour out wealth like water, it dies. A stunned silence fell over the bazaar. The truth of Behlul's words settled like a stone in Malik's chest. He had spent his life hoarding wealth, guarding it as if it were life itself. The merchant's lips parted, but no words came. Behlul grinned. "And now, good merchant, I believe you owe me 1,000 gold coins." Malik's hands clenched at his sides. "This is a trick," he spat. "Your riddles are nonsense." Behlul shrugged. "A wager is a wager. If you refuse to pay, it is not I you deceive, it is your own honor." The crowd began to murmur. A man as wealthy as Malik refusing to honor his word? Shame crept into Malik's heart. His pride would not let him be seen as a liar. Reluctantly, he reached for his coin pouch. With trembling hands, he counted out the sum, dropping the heavy gold into Behlul's palm. The fool smiled, weighing the pouch with satisfaction. "Ah," Behlul mused. "It seems your greed has indeed been washed away, though at a great price." The crowd erupted into laughter and applause. Malik, his face burning with humiliation, stormed away from the marketplace. As the people cheered Behlul's wit, he turned, tossing a handful of gold coins into the hands of beggars nearby. "A lesson well taught should always be shared," he said with a wink. And with that, Behlul disappeared into the crowd, leaving behind a city that would remember the day a fool outwitted a merchant. The sun dipped low over Baghdad, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. The bazaar still buzzed with whispers of the day's events, how Behlul, the so-called fool, had outwitted Malik the merchant and walked away with 1,000 gold coins. But not everyone was laughing. Inside his lavish home, Malik sat in seething silence. The golden lamp beside him flickered, casting long shadows across his chambers. He could still hear the echoes of laughter, the humiliation burning deep. "A fool," he muttered, gripping his goblet of spiced wine. "I have been made a fool before all of Baghdad." His most trusted servant, Jafar, stepped forward cautiously. "Master, the city speaks of Behlul's wit. But what is wit against true power?" Malik's eyes darkened. "Go on." Jafar bowed slightly. 8,000 gold coins, does Behlul still have them?" Malik's fingers tightened around his goblet. "He gave some away to beggars. But the rest," his voice trailed off. Jafar smirked. "A fool does not keep gold for long, master. If you wish, I can find out where he has hidden it." Malik leaned forward, intrigued. "And then?" Jafar's smile widened. "Then, master, we ensure that the fool pays a much higher price for his tricks." A slow grin crept across Malik's face. "Find out where the gold is. I will handle the rest." Behlul, oblivious to the merchant's brewing vengeance, sat beneath a date tree in the outskirts of the city. He tossed a gold coin in the air, watching it glint in the fading sunlight. "Strange," he mused aloud. "For all the power these coins hold, they still fall to the earth like mere stones." An old beggar sitting nearby chuckled. "And yet, men kill for them." Behlul nodded. "Indeed. Gold is but metal, yet it bends the wills of kings and merchants alike." The beggar eyed the pouch in Behlul's hands. "Will you keep it?" Behlul smirked. "Ah, my friend, I have never been fond of heavy burdens. And gold is the heaviest of all." The beggar leaned in, curious. "Then what will you do with it?" Behlul's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Let us say, whoever seeks to take it from me may find they have already lost far more." As night descended upon Baghdad, the fool's words would soon prove prophetic. For in the shadows, Jafar had been listening. And the merchant's revenge was already in motion. The night air carried whispers through the alleys of Baghdad. Jafar, Malik's trusted servant, moved like a shadow, his eyes locked on Behlul as he wandered through the city streets. Behlul, seemingly unaware, hummed a tune as he walked, his gold pouch swinging at his side. The fool had no guards, no protection, just a tattered robe and a knowing smile. Jafar smirked. "This would be easy. He signaled to two men hidden in the darkness. Thieves, hired by Malik, waiting for their moment. As Behlul turned down an empty street, they struck. One thief lunged, grabbing for the pouch. The other swung a club at Behlul's head. But Behlul was quicker than he looked. He sidestepped gracefully, and the club-wielding thief struck his own partner instead. The first man collapsed with a groan. Behlul laughed, stepping back. "Ah, my friends. If you wanted gold, you only had to ask." The remaining thief growled and lunged again. But Behlul tossed the gold pouch into the air and straight into a nearby well. A loud splash echoed through the street. The thief froze. Jafar, watching from the shadows, cursed under his breath. Behlul grinned. "Now, if you truly desire it, go ahead, dive in." The thief hesitated. No one knew how deep that well was. It could mean drowning for a mere handful of coins. Behlul patted the stunned man's shoulder. Gold is best spent, not chased. But some men never learn. With that, he turned and walked away, whistling. Jafar clenched his fists. The fool had outwitted them. But Malik would not let this go. Jafar stormed into Malik's chambers, his face flushed with anger. The merchant, sipping wine from a silver goblet, raised an eyebrow. "Well?" Malik asked. Jafar gritted his teeth. "The fool tricked us. He threw the gold into a well." Malik's grip on his goblet tightened. "A well?" Jafar nodded. No one dared to jump in. The water was deep, and the night was dark. Malik slammed his goblet onto the table. "That gold was mine." Jafar hesitated, then leaned in. "There is another way, master." Malik narrowed his eyes. "Speak." Jafar smirked. Behlul may not care for gold, but he loves his freedom. What if the Caliph himself turned against him? Malik leaned forward, intrigued. "Go on." Jafar's voice dropped to a whisper. "We spread word that Behlul has insulted the throne, mocked the Caliph's rule. Harun al-Rashid values his dignity above all. If he believes the fool has made a fool of him." Malik's lips curled into a smile. "Then the fool will have more to lose than gold." Jafar nodded. "By Sunrise, the court will be buzzing with rumors." Malik chuckled. "Good. Let us see if wit can save him from the wrath of a king." Behlul sat by the riverbank, skipping stones across the water. The stars shimmered above him, their reflections dancing on the rippling surface. An old fisherman sat nearby, watching. "You seem amused, Behlul." Behlul grinned. "Tonight, a man plots my downfall, thinking himself clever." The fisherman raised an eyebrow. "And you do not worry?" Behlul laughed, tossing another stone. "A man drowning in greed will always sink before I do." But as the first light of dawn touched Baghdad, Behlul had no idea that Malik's whispers were already reaching the palace gates. By the time the sun had fully risen, the palace halls buzzed with whispers. Servants, nobles, and courtiers exchanged furtive glances as rumors spread like wildfire. "Behlul has mocked the throne. He claims the Caliph's rule is a game for fools. Does he think himself above the mighty Harun al-Rashid?" By mid-morning, the Caliph himself had heard the accusations. Seated upon his golden throne, his fingers drummed against the armrest, his expression dark. At his side, Grand Vizier Yahya leaned in. "Shall I summon him, Your Majesty?" The Caliph exhaled slowly. "Yes. If he truly mocks my rule, let him explain himself, before I decide his fate." Behlul sat on the steps of a mosque, watching pigeons peck at crumbs. His mind was at peace, untouched by the schemes unfolding around him. Then, the sound of marching boots broke the morning calm. A squad of the Caliph's royal guards approached, their leader stepping forward. "Behlul, by order of Harun al-Rashid, you are to present yourself before the throne, at once." Behlul smirked, tossing the last of his crumbs to the birds. "Ah, my invitation has arrived." The guards exchanged confused glances. Was the fool expecting this? Without protest, Behlul stood, dusted off his robe, and followed them toward the palace. But as they crossed the great marble courtyard, something unusual happened. People began gathering. Shopkeepers, scholars, beggars, citizens from all walks of life paused to watch. Many whispered. Some simply bowed their heads as Behlul passed. Even the guards noticed. Strange, one muttered. He is a madman. Why do they look at him with such respect? Behlul only smiled. For while Malik had spread rumors of his downfall, the people of Baghdad knew the truth. The grand hall of the Caliph was filled with an uneasy silence as Behlul stepped inside. Nobles and officials lined the walls, their gazes filled with curiosity and contempt. At the far end of the hall, Harun al-Rashid sat upon his golden throne, his expression unreadable. Beside him stood Grand Vizier Yahya, his sharp eyes scanning Behlul like a man assessing a prisoner. The Caliph's voice broke the silence. Behlul, I have heard troubling things. Behlul grinned. The world is full of trouble, Your Majesty. Which one concerns you today? A murmur rippled through the court. Did he not fear the ruler's wrath? Harun's eyes narrowed. They say you have mocked my rule. That you call my throne a game for fools. Behlul tilted his head, figuring deep thought. A game for fools, you say? And who, pray tell, has been whispering such poetry into Your Majesty's ears? Before the Caliph could respond, Malik stepped forward from the crowd. It is no poetry, Your Majesty, Malik declared. This man, this fool, dares to compare your rule to a child's play. If such insolence goes unpunished, what will the people think? The nobles nodded in agreement, their murmurs rising. Harun studied Behlul carefully. And what do you say to this accusation? Behlul sighed dramatically. Malik, my dear merchant. You have indeed placed gold upon many scales, but you have never weighed the weight of truth. The court grew still. Behlul turned back to the Caliph. Your Majesty, if a man claims I have mocked your throne, surely, he must know the true value of kingship. He gestured toward Malik. Let us ask him, what is the true burden of a ruler? Malik's smug expression faltered. Why should I answer such nonsense? Behlul grinned. Because a fool's nonsense often hides a wise man's truth. The Caliph leaned forward, intrigued. Very well, merchant. Answer him. Malik hesitated, then spoke carefully. A ruler's burden is power, to command, to enforce, to rule. Behlul shook his head. Power is an illusion, Malik. A true ruler's burden is justice. A hush fell over the hall. Behlul turned back to the Caliph, his gaze sharp. Your Majesty, have I mocked your rule, or have I merely reminded your people what it should be? The court waited in tense silence, watching the Caliph's reaction. And for the first time that day, Harun al-Rashid smiled. A moment of silence stretched through the royal court, thick with tension. Then, to the astonishment of all, Harun al-Rashid laughed. It was not a mocking laugh nor one of anger, it was genuine amusement, laced with intrigue. You speak boldly, Behlul, the Caliph said, his eyes studying the so-called madman. Perhaps too boldly. Behlul grinned. Boldness is the language of those who have nothing to lose, Your Majesty. And I, he gestured to his tattered robes, am as free as the wind. The nobles exchanged uncertain glances. Some still frowned, unwilling to accept Behlul's words. Malik, however, looked pale. The Caliph's amusement faded as he turned to the merchant. Malik, you have accused this man before my court. And yet, his words seem to carry wisdom, while yours reek of fear. Malik bowed quickly, his voice trembling slightly. Your Majesty, I only sought to protect the throne's honor. Surely, such a fool. A fool who speaks the truth is no fool at all, Harun interrupted, his gaze sharp. The court fell silent. Then, with a thoughtful nod, the Caliph stood. Behlul, if justice is the true burden of a ruler, tell me, how does one measure justice? Behlul's grin widened. With balance, Your Majesty. And balance is found in the simplest of places. Without another word, he turned on his heel and walked away, not waiting for permission, nor fearing consequence. The court gasped at his audacity. Yet the Caliph only watched, intrigued, as Behlul disappeared beyond the palace doors. The court buzzed with whispers long after Behlul had left. Some called him insane, others claimed he was a genius in disguise. But Harun al-Rashid remained deep in thought. The next morning, as the golden sun painted Baghdad's rooftops, the Caliph summoned his guards. Find Behlul, he ordered. I wish to see where his wisdom leads him. The guards searched marketplaces, alleys, and mosques, but Behlul was nowhere to be found. Until finally, they heard laughter near the city's weighing station, where merchants measured their goods before trade. There sat Behlul, cross-legged on the dusty ground, playing with a balance scale. One guard stepped forward. Behlul, the Caliph summons you. Behlul grinned. Ah, but I am already engaged in matters of great importance. The guards glanced at each other. What are you doing? Behlul held up the small scale. Measuring justice. The guards frowned. What nonsense is this? Behlul pointed to the scale's plates. On one side, I place gold, a man's wealth, his power, his greed. On the other, I place a single grain of truth. The guards waited. Behlul tilted his head. And you know what happens? He let the scale settle. Then, with a single breath, he blew away the grain. The scale tipped violently, sending the gold crashing down. Justice, Behlul whispered, watching the gold spill onto the ground, is lost when truth is so light that even the faintest lie can push it aside. The guards stared, unsure how to respond. Then one of them sighed. Come, Behlul. Let the Caliph hear this madness himself. And so, Behlul rose, his eyes twinkling, ready to bring his lesson to the throne. Behlul was escorted back to the Grand Palace, where Harun al-Rashid waited on his golden throne. The court, now filled with even more nobles and scholars, watched with eager anticipation. The Caliph's gaze was sharp. Tell me, Behlul, what did you mean by your demonstration at the weighing station? Behlul smiled. Your Majesty, justice is like a balance scale. If truth is not weighed properly, wealth and power will always tip the scale in favor of the corrupt. Harun al-Rashid nodded slowly. And who, then, do you accuse of such imbalance? Behlul turned, his eyes landing on Malik, the merchant. This man, Your Majesty, built his empire not on fairness, but on deception. He thrives on a tilted scale, one that serves only his greed. Gasps rippled through the court. Malik's face turned pale. The Caliph, deep in thought, studied the accused merchant. Is this true, Malik? Malik stammered. Why, Your Majesty, I have always served the empire. I. Enough. The Caliph raised a hand, silencing him. Then he turned to a guard. Investigate his dealings. If Behlul speaks the truth, let balance be restored. Malik collapsed to his knees, his fate all but sealed. As for Behlul, he simply chuckled. A fool may have no wealth, no palace, no power, but he sees what others refuse to. Harun al-Rashid watched him closely, a hint of admiration in his gaze. Perhaps you are no fool at all, Behlul. Behlul bowed deeply. Or perhaps, Your Majesty, the world is merely filled with greater fools than I. The court fell into awed silence. And with that, Behlul turned and walked away, leaving behind a throne, a lesson, and a kingdom forever changed.